Okay, sorry this is so late. I just haven't had time to recap the Oilers' last game until now, and I'm aware that most of you are probably watching the Montreal Rangers overtime game because I am. But anyway, here are my thoughts on Game 1 of the Oilers and the Sharks series. Now, first of all, the team came out, looked really jittery in the first three and a half minutes. I think everyone can agree to that. After that, they played great. They were laying the body. I even saw Eberle throw a huge check out there. They were firing the puck at the net from everywhere. They had all kinds of momentum. It was an excellent, excellent first period. Normally, I would have thought they're home and cooled. But then the momentum shifted in the second period for two reasons. The first one is San Jose adapted to the way the game was being played. They decided we cannot let the Oilers skate the puck through the neutral zone. We've got to clog things up and force them to dump the puck in. The second thing is that the referees got involved. I think maybe roughly halfway through the period, McDavid had that breakaway. He came in, he was hooked a little bit. I don't think I would have called a penalty, but he got the puck back right after the breakaway, and he was definitely hooked then, and it was right in front of the official, and it turned the puck over to San Jose. And I guess I can understand the official's mindset, league-wide. Do we call a penalty on McDavid every time he's hooked or slashed or impeded in any way? Because you don't want to show favoritism to players, but the thing is, he's so much better, he's so much quicker and so much more skilled than the other players in the league that's really the only way that they can level the playing field. So if you don't call those penalties, you're negating his skill. It should have been a penalty. Anyway, the puck goes up the left wing boards to Couture, who chips it into the corner, and Greiva hits him, and I thought it was a pretty normal body check, but Couture happens to be wearing a full face cage, and he does the old head snap back, and the referee, who's standing 25 or 30 feet away, calls a penalty. Now, I'm not complaining about the officials because I think that they're out to get the Oilers. The officiating is sketchy league-wide. The point I'm trying to make is Edmonton needed to recognize in that moment the refs aren't doing us any favors tonight. So, those two things happened. The Oilers, as a group, had a decision to make. Are we going to readjust, or are we going to continue playing the way that we've been playing? Now, I'll give you an example of something in my life where this happened. When my wife and I got married, and I'm sure a lot of married people can attest to this, you start to accumulate a lot of stuff. And it got to the point where we'd been in our house for 2 or 3 years, and we had so many things in our home, cluttering things up, that I was feeling antsy and wanted to start getting rid of things. So every time I would approach my wife on this subject and show her something that I wanted to get rid of, she would say, "Oh, no, we can't get rid of that. So-and-so gave us that." Or, "Oh, no, we can't get rid of that. Just as soon as we get rid of it, that's when we're going to need it." Or, "Oh, I just can't even talk about this right now." I think she can actually hear me upstairs talking about this. Anyway, I realized that this strategy was getting me nowhere. Our house was just filling up to the point where we were actually contemplating getting a bigger house because we had so much stuff. So what I did was, about once or twice a week, I would take something useless like a sock with a hole in it, or a VHS movie that we also had on DVD, and I would take it out to the garage. And I would do this in October, November, December, January, February, March. And then finally, on one bright, sunny Saturday afternoon in April, I'd say, "You know what, honey, I just got to go do some spring cleaning in the garage," where I would put a bunch of things in the garbage and take a whole bunch of things to the thrift store. And not to sound like I'm sneaking around on my wife, but this worked because as the house started to become more decluttered, she realized, she's looking at me right now, she realized how liberating it was, and now she's like the decluttering queen. So the point I'm making is that sometimes when one strategy is not working, maybe you should fall back on a contingency plan. So that is the situation that the Oilers were faced with in Game 1. And completely uncharacteristically, They decided we're going to be stubborn and just continue playing the game the way we are. So this frustrated me to no end. In the second period, you're leading the game 2-1, and San Jose is just sending one guy in, just a floater as a forechecker, and all four other guys are clogging up the neutral zone. The clock is your friend. You're winning. There's no reason to come out of the zone unforced. Sit there and kill 15 or 20 seconds. There's no problem in that. I understand, yeah, you want to entertain the home crowd, but manage the game. If they're not giving you anything, don't force it. And secondly, with the referees, you got to realize, okay, if they're going to call the game this way, we need to be a little more responsible with our sticks. We need to be a little more responsible with our forechecking. And they weren't. I mean, that penalty by Lucic in the third, yeah, it was a dive, but you can't do that. You know, you're hurting your team. So they just simply refused to adapt to the way the game was being played. Now, the third period was the worst period I've seen them play all year. And they only let in one goal. I'm not talking about just, you know, the way the scoreboard reflected, but they, from top to bottom, were awful. The coaching was poor. Having Letestu and Kajula out there in the 4-on-4, I couldn't understand that, especially the way Kajula had been playing. And that came back to bite him in the bum. The forwards weren't coming back into their own zone. You know, they weren't dumping the puck in. They were turning it over everywhere, taking lazy penalties. I mean, it was a mess from top to bottom. Talbot was the only guy who showed up in that third period. Now, there's two ways of looking at this. One is that this is really bad news going into Game 2 because we didn't see this from the Oilers in the regular season, and is this their inexperience that's affecting them? Are they not able to understand that when it's not working one way, you got to change things up? The other way of looking at it is that despite how awfully they played, they barely lost that game. They lost it in overtime. So I would go with option B because I think one of the characteristics of a good team is that even when you're not at your best, you have a chance to win. So that's the way I look at it going into Game 2. My buddy Corey, who I've often talked about in this blog, is at that game. He was supposed to go to Game 1, but he wound up swapping his tickets. So, you know, he might have made the wrong decision. We're going to find out shortly. Anyway, I do want to recap all these games, so I wanted to get this in as quickly as I could prior to the game starting tonight. So thank you for watching. I apologize that I can't see the live chat because I'm just shooting this on my phone. I'll try to figure out something for the next one that I can actually interact with you guys while I'm on the air. Anyway, until then, have a great night and go Oilers go.